Hello there, thanks for tuning in. Jeff here with the Bigshooterist channel.
And Morgan, and today we're talking about big bore sound suppression.
Stick around. A few adjectives that you typically don't hear when you're discussing 50 caliber sound suppressors are lightweight and compact. But this suppressor is the VERS50, and it's from Bowers Group. This is not a high pressure 50 BMG suppressor, and that's where the difference comes in. It hasn't been all that long that you've had the option to fire a half-inch projectile through a sound suppressor without using one that was designed for the 50 BMG round. And there's an awful lot of pressure in that round, especially when you compare it to a lot of the popular cartridges found in even black rifles today, like the 450 Bushmaster, the 50 AE, the 50 GI, the 50 Beowulf. There are all kinds of rounds, several of them for the black rifle, but not all of them. But you didn't really have any option for sound suppression. They were too big to use a 45 ACP, and a 50 BMG sound suppressor was just overkill as far as size and weight, and even price. The VERS50 is just like a lot of the other sound suppressors in the Bowers Group line, where they use thread adapters to be able to change the pitch and the thread for the sound suppressor. So since this has a half-inch diameter baseline for the projectile that you're going to fire, you can run this on an awful lot of firearms. There are a lot of guns that have a much smaller bore than 1/2 inch or 50 caliber. So it's a really versatile can, but today we want to test it on the 450. You ready to test drive it?
Oh, heck yeah.
Let's do it.
It's got a little kick and I was way off.
We're only firing at 50 yards today, and we're doing that because the intention of this video is to test the effectiveness of the sound suppressor. In any type of accuracy testing is kind of going to be secondary to what we're doing, but I will tell you we fired a few rounds, actually Morgan fired a few rounds early on to find out what the point of impact shift would be with this sound suppressor, and I'll explain that in a second, as well as linking to some videos that go into much more detail than we will today. But her rounds are almost touching, so I've got high hopes for it. I'm going to fire 3 more rounds, and I'll see if I can replicate what Morgan already started. I never ever in my life thought that I'd be firing this with no hearing protection. This is a treat. Let's go have a look. How cool is that? Morgan fired 2 rounds. Those are the 2 that you saw before I started shooting. 2 rounds to get an idea where the point of impact shift was going to be. And again, I'll get into that in a second. So we've got 2 different people, 2 different eyes obviously, firing 5 rounds, and the group itself only measures a little over 1.25 inches in size. Now that's 5 rounds that are almost 1/2 inch in diameter each to begin with. So that's a really good group. And the scope that's on it, it's a Loophole VXR. It's not a precision bullseye type of scope. It covers this whole thing up, so I couldn't be more pleased with that. Let's talk about point of impact shift. Now, you may ask yourself why I would be pleased with this when the sighting point was right here and the impact area was right here. The important part is that it is repeatable. And the reason it happens is because anytime you add a device to the muzzle of a firearm, you change the properties of the barrel. You change the vibration, you change the harmonics. Even something small like a muzzle brake can create a situation where you have to re-zero your rifle. If you look at the kits that are on the market that dampen vibration, then you'll know what I'm talking about. All they are, what to my untrained eye, looks like a little rubber ring, and you slide it over the barrel, and sometimes they'll cut group sizes as much as in half. So by dampening that, you actually change the point of impact. Now the important part, and this happens with almost every sound suppressor. I own only one, and my whole life I've only owned one, and I've had hundreds of suppressors that I've tested, several hundred, and only one has had the same point of impact suppressed and unsuppressed. And all that means is that you have to zero it with the suppressor on it, or have a mil-dot sight so you know where the point of impact versus your point of aim is going to be, because this is, like, obviously entirely repeatable. Every single round here was aimed right here. Every round aimed here impacted right here. So a sound suppressor isn't going to make the gun shoot worse. I found it typically tightens the groups and helps the gun to shoot a little bit better. But it's really important to know that if you have a firearm and it's all sighted in, and you add a muzzle device, including a sound suppressor, you're going to have to go back and re-zero that, or at least check it for re-zero, as that's been my experience. Because I like these big bore black rifles so much, and just watching one be fired doesn't really help emphasize how powerful these are, especially ones like the 450 Bushmaster. Let's do something visual. I'm going to shoot this pin with a 5.56, and then we'll shoot this pin with the 450. And we'll see if the reaction of the pins can speak louder than any amount of gum flapping I'm going to do. Let's check it out. Let's start out with the 5.56. This will be the pin on the left. No hearing protection. I never ever would have thought that I could fire this gun with no hearing protection. This is really cool. Let's shoot the pin on the right, see if it looks any different. A little bit different. Let's go take a look. That, my friends, is why I like a big bore black rifle. Did you see that pin on the right? Did you see that pin on the right?
Yes, I saw the, yes,
that's
over
all,
and over.
Awesome, awesome. That's all energy that's being dumped into that target. And that's why the 450 Bushmaster is my primary hunting rifle for big game. I love the black rifle anyway, and when they introduced the 450 and ammo companies started jumping on board and offering loads, you'd have to pry it out of my hands. Yeah, I probably heard that one before, huh?
Probably.
I love it. I love this rifle. I never ever thought that I'd be firing it without hearing protection. This Bowers Group VERS50 is fantastic. Terrific can. And these are regular Hornady loads, the 250 grain FTX, and they're smoking. They're running around 2,200 feet per second at the muzzle, and it's still very, very comfortable to the ears. It also, because it's so light, keeps a nice balance on the gun. It's not like going back to the 50 BMG suppressor where it would be longer and a larger diameter and made of a much stronger material. It doesn't need that. So there's no sense hanging it off the end of the rifle for nothing. Now, we originally thought that you would fire this rifle, but I'm thinking now maybe not.
Probably not. Kickback was a little bit more than I expected on a normal basis, actually. Not that I can't try to handle it.
No, she can handle it, and I hope I got this on video because it was good. I thought she'd fired this. Morgan thought she'd fired it. So I asked her to send a couple rounds down range so we could find out what the point of impact shift was. And when she fired the first round, she turned around and looked at me, and her eyes were as big as saucers, and she said, "This thing has some recoil." and it kind of took her off guard a little bit. But she was awesome. She jumped right back on the second round, put it in the same hole, and improvise overcoming the daft, right?
Oh yes, definitely.
Awesome. Awesome package. I love this gun. This video wasn't specifically about it. It was about the Bowers Group VERS50 sound suppressor. It's a terrific can. I'm anxious to try it on some other calibers now, some smaller calibers, and see what I can get for practical use out of this one suppressor. Because with all of the thread adapters that they make, I bet I can use this on 15 different calibers easily. Easily. How cool is that? One tack stamp and all of that use. So we're gonna kind of push that project off into the future a little bit. I'm gonna slowly start on it. I'll report back to you when if you want to find some of the cool clothing like Morgan's wearing today, you can on Facebook, and it's facebook.com/guntestvids. And until next time, have fun and be safe.